if you can't make a decision, if you can't make decisions in your own life, someone else is right there ready to make
Right.
decisions for you, right? And that's what
Yeah.
jobs are. You
Yeah.
sign up for someone else's, view of the world and their idea and goals, and they're hiring you in for a thing, and
Yeah.
you make that trade. And so that was the domino of like it was hilarious to be called a creative director and not be doing anything
Be
creative.
creative.
Yeah,
That's
so that was the
the
switch for me.
irony.
It was like I have this title and I thought I wanted a title like this at some point, and then it was like a complete oxymoron, and it's one of those I have to get out now or never.
Hello, and welcome to another conversation in 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm the founder of 33 Strangers. But I host 33 Conversations to have conversations with founders, other founders, about what they're going through in real life. What was the spark that caused them to shift from whatever they thought life was going to be to the dream that they have living inside of them, and that journey, like talk about the human side of it today. And today, I'm really excited to have my guest, Mike Desart from Austin, Texas, here to share his story. It's a really cool one. And I love that your website or your company is the same name, and the art and the creativity behind it was really fascinating when we had a pre-call. So please share with us like a little bit about you and part of your how your journey started.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. And I love the name 33 Conversations, and the meaning and reason behind it. So happy to be here. And so really, like Desart Studios has been inseparable from me as the founder for a long time, and really there's a big jump into expanding it and going fully into entrepreneurship about 2.5 years ago. But it's really been there on the side as just passion and projects. And so the background is that I've really been in the creative art space and a designer, artist, illustrator for my entire life, right? A lot of people grow out of it, and I just never did. I even remember back in college when I went in, my mom was saying, "You need to get a job, and maybe here's one in the mailroom, here's one here." And I was like, I walked just straight to the creative arts department with my portfolio of work, which back then was like physical portfolio.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to work here. Here's what I've done, and they said yes, and I became like an intern as a freshman in college. And so ever since that point, it was just game on with creativity and doing that. So I've had this like great history of being able to do that for a long time. And then because of life and everything that moved into kind of corporate America, but a lot of startups as well. And so I worked in those for a lot of time. I was in Silicon Valley for 10 years and did all of that in the startup scene, and moving here to Austin 9 years ago, more startups as well, and then really jumping into entrepreneurship and making that change 2.5 years ago.
So you always had that startup bug, right?
I did, yeah. I can't, yeah. I've always just loved creativity, and you know, just found a way to make it happen as a profession, which is actually really hard. It would have been a lot easier at a lot of points in my life to just take a stable, steady job.
Exactly. Do what your
Yeah,
mama said, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. But
They're just
startups,
trying to help us like be safe and survive and all of that stuff.
yeah,
But like, and it does feel. I mean, I can't. I've always been on the outside of it too. Like, never really in the fit in thing. But it's. I always had that something inside of me that was saying, yeah, and I have this other passion, and it's so easy to put that on the back burner. And but it sounds like you've always had that creative spark, or it's just something that's been inside of you. So I'm interested to hear what how did you feel that you could express yourself or your creativity inside those corporate startups? I know startups are a little bit different than like traditional corporate America, but just what's your experience of you being authentically you inside of a structure that wasn't your own entrepreneur business vision? Like, what was that to like partner your creativity inside of somebody else's dream? Like, what was that? like?
Yeah, well, yeah, you nailed it. It's inside of someone else's dream, right? So
Yeah.
I think there is space, and startups are different than large corporations. And I just, I stayed away. Some startups I was at, SurveyMonkey was one of them, where I was like kind of the 100th employee, and it was this thing in
Wait.
downtown Palo Alto, and then it's huge now. There's like 6,000 employees, and I had to get out around like 400 or 500 people because I just started becoming a machine and I was a cog, right? And but you really nailed it. It's someone else's vision, and you realize you're spending your life, like your life is your one life, and you're spending that on someone else's vision of what they want the world to be. In some instances it really lined up and I was really happy, and other ones it's like, well, I don't, I over time don't want to really contribute anymore to this because it doesn't align with my goals and really who I am, right? So
Did you just see like little pieces and it was just like, okay, I'm gonna file that like this little like like, but it wasn't like a big huge chunk, right? Or
yeah, it
like
was.
all at once, or was it a cumulative? That's kind of like what I was trying to understand.
Yes, cumulative for sure. To the point where when you're so part of so many startups, like again, being in Silicon Valley for 10 years, and I was part of startups that were 20 people or 50 or 100, and then some that were just working directly with founders on the side and trying to get a dream off the ground. But again, you're a tool in someone else's dream. And again, for stability and everything else like that works. And I think I really was able to learn so much and absorb a lot about business, even though I only had like a design focus. And so it was cumulative to the point where it's like I can do this on my own. I can really I could be the founder and not just keep working for founders. And so that was about 2.5 years ago. I had ended a job. A company here in Austin got acquired by a larger company and reorganizing and everything. And I tried to be a manager for the first time there. I've always been an individual contributor. And I tried to just go into management because that's what they needed. And I was so unhappy. And I was not creating anything, and not being creative in my job. And so that like just sucked the life out of me really quickly.
It does, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so really that was like a starting point. It was the best thing ever to have all that happen actually, because it really like sealed the deal for me that like I'm not going to be a manager in a corporation. Like I would, rather starve.
Exactly. Oh, brings me to my next question. So, what was that domino? What was that? It's all accumulative, but what was the? It's like I'm out of here. Like, what was the thing?
Yeah, I had to fight for this title of creative director, and I had to with that I had to make a bunch of concessions around like I would have to manage 4 different people, and then like the meeting schedule that I would have, and it just became like the creative aspect of my job was just being whittled away, and so it just got to the point where I was like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing, and just it's a choice to, if you can't make a decision, if you can't make decisions in your own life, someone else is right there ready to make decisions for you, right? And that's what
Yeah,
jobs are. Like you
yeah.
sign up for someone else's, view of the world and their idea and goals, and they're hiring you in for a thing, and you make that trade. Um, and so that was the domino of like it was hilarious to be called a creative director and not be doing anything
Being
creative.
creative.
Yeah,
That's so.
so that was the
The
switch for me.
irony.
It was like I have this title and I thought I wanted a title like this at some point, and then it was like a complete oxymoron, and it's one of those I have to get out now or never.
What title do you give yourself now? That you're.
Creative director.
Hell yes. Your own
No, I mean
creative
I like
director,
founder.
right?
I like founder a lot, right? It's more like it is more, but But yeah, it doesn't matter what I'm called because it's all on my terms. And so I can be as creative as I want as a creative director. And so there's an alignment piece when you own your own company. And this is what I'm learning, and learned a lot in the last year is you have to have alignment with the people you're working with. Otherwise, it does feel like a job. Like, again, it's not, as long as my view of the world, my passion, and what I want to create in the world is aligned with the clients, and they're sort of a conduit for me to express myself, then that's a great relationship. If it's someone who's like, I need A, B, C, and D, and I just need a person, clicking a button and making it happen, like building a website or things like that, it's less creative.
Because you have to, it's the design. You have to see the whole vision. That's part of being a creative is actually doing that for, other people, but we have to do it for ourselves first, right?
Yes,
Yeah, you
100%.
have to have that. So, what was your experience from, okay, you did it, you've started it, you've made the decision, you're all in. Was there a period that you went through where any doubt or fear or, oh shit, what did I do? Like that kind of a feeling, because there's, I'm sure there was invisible things about that structure that you didn't know you were missing until you were in your other space. Like, what was that experience? That because it's chaotic at best sometimes, but then you have to manage so many other things that you didn't think you're really going to have to do until you can get to the creative director part where you're at now. So, like, what was that like? Anything unseen for you? Like, what was your experience of that?
It was terrible. It
Okay,
was
I
really
love it. Yes.
it was
Yeah.
really hard. And I think, and that's the story you hear over and over again, and you interview people all the time and there's like the dream, right? And the freedom, and but it is coupled with this responsibility and needing to focus. And so we talked earlier about mindset shifting, and it's a complete switch of mindset, going from an employee to, even now I employ people part time and employ freelancers, um, and so it's a complete mindset shift, and I felt completely lost the first like 6 9 months of doing it. And what I realized I was doing is I owned a job. Like, I just traded a job at a startup for a
Yeah.
job with 5 different
Yeah.
clients, and it was
Yeah.
still a job. Because
Yeah.
all I knew to do was to be an employee. That's all I knew. Um, and so and then those die off as either economy changes or different things. You find yourself like, okay, like I need to get more clients, and then it's like this sinking feeling of like, oh no, I don't know how to get new clients. I'm not a salesperson. Like,
Yeah. Hell no.
I don't
No.
know how to do this at all. And so there's this like dread and also urgency, around it, because you not only want to keep it alive, right? But you also like would like this company that you just created and started to provide for you and financially. And so there's this like, yeah, it's a mix of dread and urgency, which is a unique kind of pain to
And
experience.
deadly for manifestation. If you're
Yeah.
trying to manifest something, it's really, well, it's impossible to do when you're like not yourself, or have some sort of, you know, it gets desperate and like people can smell it. Like it's like a car
Mm,
salesman. It doesn't matter how great your stuff is. If there's an urgency, that urgency is, illusion, but it's like it's real when it's happening because of that, like the carpet being pulled out from underneath you.
yes.
Can you think back to that time? I know you made it out of it, and we're going to talk about that. But can you just, since we're here,
Yeah.
if you could have went back there, like, can you think of like one thing that would have made a huge impact for you when you were going through that space, if you had it? Can you just think of like, don't even have to know what it was, but just for your own internal, what would have made a difference back then that it could take the urgency out of it, or that little panic or whatever that was? What would have softened it from your retrospective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's where collaboration comes into play. I've been like hyper independent my whole life, and I grew up where I kind of needed to be independent and taking care of myself a little more than some. And so I had this hyper independent. I think a lot of people who want to start their own thing have like they have this independence gene in them that, they kind of have to have that to want to go start your own thing. But when I look at the period where I've been able to get myself out of that panic and desperation mode of how do I find new clients, how do I find the next thing, it's because I've just consulted with people who are doing it. I think it's, and you're connecting entrepreneurs all the time, and you see this like arc, right? And it's so true where it's really your success is almost completely dependent on how well you can find and collaborate with other people to fill in the holes, and sometimes enormous holes. Like for me, against sales, I didn't know how to do that at all. Like I was a complete newbie. And so it came down to collaboration and finding those people. So once you did, that's when the dread and panic started to stop, because that's where you start to also, a, you have to understand the process, and then b, you have to like kind of systematize it, um, to make it
It's
really work, right? So it is like
yeah.
exact art, and I think collaboration is really the key to getting there.
And design and design. Like I'm not a designer, but I know what I like, and I know that you said something so powerful before about I got a job. I'm like entrepreneur myself a job because it's filled with, and I never had this aha until you just said that was, oh my God, you will have the belief structure of I'm an employee or the identity of I'm an employee because that's what it's been. That stuff runs in the background until you become aware of it. So that process of awareness led you to the collaboration. Then how did you start putting collaboration in from, our natural state is to be independent because we make stuff happen, but we also need the people. So how that bridge, that's an enormous bridge to walk over, first of all. Like, so how did that happen?
Hmm.
Because entrepreneurs can't just go to a BNI or something like that. Because whenever I think of that, there's that one option or this or that. And it's so canned and so
Hmm.
pitchy. And it's just like, there's no humanness behind. It's like, hi, I'm this product and I'm only valuable. It's like that. But
Yeah.
I operate at a deep level. I know you do too. It's more than just money. It's like why are we doing it? And you know, it's very important to have creativity in the world, but especially when we're building things because of the we're building it for other humans,
Hmm.
you know? So, can you elaborate on that? Like what how did you get to that take that step to collaborate and meet the right people?
Yeah, it started with, that fear and panic is a good motivator, right? And so I'd love to say it was like this higher, like, oh, I know that I need to do this, and I'll just find the right people. It was like I know that I will fail on my own. So that's like a certainty. It felt like, and so collaboration felt like the only like way out of that. So it started with reading books and just podcasts and YouTube and videos of entrepreneurs talking about it, um,
Yeah.
and then getting into groups like mastermind groups and just other entrepreneurs, and you see, the veils lifted that like everyone is experiencing this, right? And I think a lot of times we only see successful entrepreneurs in the
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
talking about how successful they were, right? Um, and and so you don't realize like the story behind that. And so finding collaboration was really like a slower process of like, okay, like, I failed at sales today. I'll go read something or watch something that talks about sales for founders like tomorrow, and then building on that. And then it really clicked, when I was able to, like you said, there's so many. As soon as you put founder on your LinkedIn profile, you get so many like spam emails, spam everything,
A lot of
and
people
it
think
always
that's what I'm
felt like,
doing.
yeah, like they're just they're just so you just there's not that trust.
Yeah.
And so I went to people I knew from the startups that I was in, and really like I would talk to the salesperson from that startup, and it's like, hey, we've worked together, um, and stuff, but like, how do you do this? Like, I don't know how to do this. And so having them explain their job description and what they do and what works really helped.
I love that. So like you actually that was vulnerable. I bet that was
Yes,
uncomfortable, right?
yes.
Yeah. How long did that take before you? Because everything we do, you do have to go on. You have to be uncomfortable. All the good stuff is in the uncomfortable world, so it's okay. But I also understand the panic of like you can't move. It freezes you. It paralyzes you. But
Yes.
there's you knew that if you didn't collaborate, that you were dead in the water.
Right.
It popped you out. So yes, that's good, but we can't get stuck in it. A lot of people do. So that's why I love talking about this because somebody could be paralyzed and realize, yeah, just take a deep breath,
Mhm.
own that it's uncomfortable, and take a step.
Yeah.
Even if it's
Yeah.
like, even if they say no, like some of the most powerful things I've ever gotten is a no. And like, oh, I didn't die, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And no is a gift.
it actually is. It actually is a total gift. Yeah. So is all the other stuff in the between. It
Yeah.
just doesn't occur like that when it's going down at
Right.
all. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, when when did the collaboration start to like kick in from this moment of I am seeking this? You make the connections, you get past the uncomfortable part. When did it start becoming like part of your formula and like smooth out? And what happened out of that? Like, did you meet somebody that you would have never met had you, because we get deep connections with people that you don't even realize that you would have a connection with just by
Yeah.
being vulnerable.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's really when it started to kick in for me was when I found people who, or just very few, or sometimes one person that actually understood what I was trying to do and can actually give me advice that was helpful, right? Like all the unwarranted advice was just extremely not helpful. Like just people saying, "I can be your accountant for this, and we can do that, and I could be your salespeople, and we'll hire you. We'll get you 7 leads in 7 days," and like, um, and so putting all that aside, and finding it's just like that network. I think my network from Silicon Valley has been enormously helpful, because you know there's a ton of entrepreneurs out there, but really 90% of businesses fail, and so like finding people who have built and scaled businesses that haven't failed, is really key. And so there's through asking those people and asking them who they know, they were able to point me in the right direction. And, I think what was interesting is there's a lot of outside the US, there's a ton of people who are really great at entrepreneurship. And again, like the narrative, I think in the US is like we have the best startups in the world, we have the best everything in the world, we're the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so just getting different perspectives from around the world in Europe, Canada, like um, was really good for me to see because people who own small businesses and have built them themselves really probably know sales more than an individual salesperson who has a sales manager, who has a sales target, who has a sales team, right? Like because they are like minutely focused. So um, yeah, I think that when I started developing a filter, I worked with a content strategist, because for me, like I essentially like draw pretty pictures for a living. That's what I've been doing since I was a kid, and like that's like I, I love to do. I just use a mouse and a computer to draw the pictures now, right? And um, so I needed to figure out, a way to communicate in words that was really persuasive and effective. And so that was a big growth area. So connecting with a content strategist that I knew, um, she was really able to help me create this kind of filter, and it's that I work with innovators who are ready for transformation. So those are my customers, and I don't focus on specific industries as much, but it's if you're an innovator and you're ready to have transformation in your business, that's what I love to do. Like I as designers of anything, you take what you see in the world and everything's there and you absorb that, but your job is to create something new and different, and hopefully something that hasn't been seen in the world yet. So that's what really excites me and gets me up in the morning. And so finding that filter and being able to communicate that verbally to people, when I'm talking to them, has been a really big differentiator.
Is there anything that still like knocks you off center?
Yeah, everything. It's so hard to. It does. We talked about like that employee mindset. Like it creeps back all the time. And one thing that I try to think about is because when you're in that kind of if you're losing clients or your things are changing and you have to start looking at new technologies to do the same work that you did before, you start getting reactive, and then like fear starts to creep in. And so there's like I try to just remember there's a huge power in being able to separate your the stimulus and reaction, right? So like even like as humans we're able to um, under certain conditions, like if someone punches us, right, we can choose to react or not, but it is a choice sometimes. And like we do have choices, especially in business and when we're building something, to have something, whether it's a client that's really unhappy or you're, shifting to doing something new in your business and you don't know what it is, you have that ability to pause that reactive part and focus on like a future goal and really get your goal setting to be really far out, and then just be extremely willing to experience a ton of pain and a ton of rejection until that future comes, years from now. So I think it's anchoring in a future that's, sometimes a decade away from now. I can see and envision that, and myself in that future if I don't react to things in the present.
It's a very interesting take. Do you practice anything to cause that? Like for me, that's when you're talking, that's like a yoga, or I have meditation that I do that just represents myself to the observer point of view and being really clear about, because if I start to react, I've trained myself to know that feeling is, it's like icky, and I'll pick that up before I even know what my head's doing. And I just, just take a moment to respond versus react out something from the past, you know? So,
Yeah, and awareness is the first thing. So
yeah,
um, what the hard period is having the awareness that you're doing it, but not being able to stop. I would not be able to like write back an email in the moment when I should have taken time to think about it first, or like, so you have the awareness. And um, yeah, I really like to visualize the future because I'm such like, even in my mind, I'm a very visual person. Like internally, externally, like everything I think about is in visuals. Like, and so I really like anchor on that future that I've envisioned, and knowing, first recognizing, being aware that like, okay, it feels like this is what it feels like to react to something, and this is what it feels like to have a short-term goal. And then it's getting your mind clear enough to know. And so I really just fall back on those future visions, future plans. And I know, and I've heard enough success stories where they say if you just experience that pain and sit with it and just allow it to be there next to you,
yeah, yeah.
then it does subside and you do stay on track. And so yeah, I think really entrepreneurship in general, you really have to like a lot of it unfortunately is just um, experiencing pain and allowing
Yes.
yourself to do that for long periods of time for a reward. And you mentioned like
Yeah.
uncomfortable, right? It is.
Yeah.
And like
Totally.
there's a quote like the treasure you seek is on the other side of being uncomfortable. Um, and that's so true. So yeah, there's a
And it
lot of
hurts.
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, just being able to again not react to the pain and just let it be there because sometimes things happen you're like, "Oh no, this my entire vision is crumbling. I'm going to have to go back to corporate America. I'm going to have to go." Your mind starts thinking in that fight or flight mode and
Survival.
preservation mode.
Yeah.
But I think that's you have to remind yourself that that's not that's a perception and not necessarily a reality, and that you can envision a reality that you want and step towards it, and know that there'll be dragons to slay along the way, and
Hell
that
yeah. Well,
you
what
still
kind of movie would it be if we didn't have dragons to slay, right?
yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
hero's story, right, is
It's part of
um
why we come here. It's part of why we come here. I think we just forget, and it takes collaboration and a community of
yeah,
like minded people supporting and having conversations and doing things and getting outside yourself, like getting on a podcast and talking about all of the stuff underneath
yeah.
the undercurrent of life. So, what's new and emerging for you, like right now, as we step into, we're completing 2025. What's 26 looking for? Like, what's that little spark that's pulling you forward right now? Even though we're going through tremendous changes globally, because that's another thing we don't talk about as well. The whole world's on fire while we're trying to create, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of it's a part of everything, actually.
Mhm.
Something has to break down for something new to emerge. We just got this weird story about, destruction and
Yeah,
what it really
yeah,
is. And we do have to do that, although it's painful to see it to being destroyed. I think we just have that in us as human beings. I don't know why, but it's required for anything new to, interior design. Get everything out of the room. Start
right.
from scratch, like blank slate. And
Yeah,
then what am I dealing with in life right now? So that's why I ask you, like, what's pulling you forward?
yeah. That's a great question, and I think, um, I mean, first, creativity, like creation, requires destruction, right? Like, my kids love to play with Legos. They have to take apart their Lego thing they built to be able to build a new one, right? And so, um, I think for me though, coming up is really I think the biggest attributes that everyone needs to navigate uncertainty, and it just comes down to uncertainty in the world, and then you apply that to everywhere, and you realize, I think entrepreneurship helps you realize that actually the things that you think are safe and stable never really work. That really stability is sort of this illusion. It's a thing that we all agree, like, um, you know, uh, that we kind of all agree on. But really, like certain things, and we saw the COVID pandemic like interrupt that kind of thinking and stuff. It's like, whoa, like really bad stuff can happen. Like a meteor hit the earth and killed the dinosaurs. Like, and you can't go around life like, again, focusing on that destruction all the time. That's really so I think having 100% belief, 100% of the time in that forward goal, and for my business and going forward in the new year, um, I'm really finding that using new technologies, especially for web building, but also inventing new processes for brands, like that's a competitive edge to try new things and implement them, and then also convince people that A, it's a better way to do it, B, there's going to be a better product at the end of it, and that you're the actual person who could get them there. So it's like three separate convincing, and that's where the sales comes in, right? And that's where it's like as soon as I was able to, get myself to learn more about that and get people to help with that,
Yeah.
it's been more successful. So really, it's like systematizing that thing and staying on the goal, and really being able to get to a place where I can pick and choose people who are aligned with what I'm doing. Because I realized that, again, the mindset of being an employee, you push the button when the person says push the button, and you do it the way they want to, right? And there's, a great manager, a great company will sometimes allow you autonomy to say, here's the goal, like try to get to it. But, typically like there's like certain things along the way, or you just have to do it that way. And so I used to think that like having a business, I was working for the client, but really you're like working to build your own dreams. Clients are part of what get you there. And not that you're using them, but that's where alignment comes in, is where they fold into your dream and your vision for the future, and they benefit from it, and that they get what they want, but you also get what you want. So now I'm really focusing on building the business for myself, and just realizing that you know, it's it's a positive thing for me and the world to pursue my passion. That's like
It
the
is.
best thing I can do, right? And to give
It
yourself
is.
permission to do that
Yeah,
is a huge mindset shift.
I love it. What kind of wisdom would you give somebody listening to this, our podcast today, which is amazing, by the way? I love it. I feel charged up by it. But like, if somebody's listening to this and this, anytime you're listening to anything or I'm listening to something online, there's always a tendency to feel like, oh God, I'm not there yet. And like, something's wrong with me, or it can compound that paralyzation. So what truth would you want them to know if they happen to be listening to us thinking that I can never get to where you're going? Like, what would you give them?
Yeah, it's funny. So one of the good mentors that I have in business and entrepreneurship, um, he really said that uh, a lot of business owners, people, giving advice, they don't necessarily like build that into their own business because it requires pain. And it's like back to the pain idea we talked about. Like I can, and that's where I think people sit around and talk about success because it's not fun to talk about failure. Um, but I think that, the worst thing you could do is think that experiencing those friction points and that pain of like, I'm not there yet, I'm not sure I could get there. Like, I'm actually sure now that I can't get there, especially on my own. Like, and that I have to like, you know, really reach out and really go beyond my comfort zone to get there. And so if you're feeling that way, like you're totally in the right place and you're on the right path. Like that's almost it.
It's,
I used to think
yeah,
that would exclude me from being successful because I just couldn't see myself. But it's like actually no, like you have to sit with that and still move forward anyway. So
yeah,
yeah, it's really feeling like you're giving yourself the permission to like say I'm worth this, and my life is my life, and that again following my passion, doing only what I can do, not only benefits me, so it's not a selfish move, it's a extremely like selfless move to do that, right? Because like the people, like the world just needs that. Society needs people who think in a way that only they can, and that's how like we move forward. Otherwise we just stay
it
stuck in
is.
what we
We stay
have.
stuck. Yeah. And that's painful. That's
Yeah,
painful. So it's like there's pain everywhere. Let's choose the pain. I'd rather choose the pain of becoming something. And birthing is painful. I know
yeah,
that. I've heard
yeah,
women say that. I know, like I've birthed new ideas. I know how pain. It's
yeah,
pain. Yeah, but
yeah.
that also means you're alive, and it can be recontextualized into something or reframed that is empowering, not
Hmm.
disempowering to us, so that we can get beyond the freeze and get into action and
Yes.
collaborate and meet people like we met. Because I went
Yeah.
outside my comfort zone to do what I was doing, and so I love that's a perfect way to end that. So I really appreciate you being on today, sharing your journey with us. It's very impactful for mine's impactful for me, and I know it's impactful for the people that view and listen to 33 Conversations. So I appreciate you being here today. Appreciate you guys listening in and watching in another conversation. And guess what? We're going to see you on the next one. Bye, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.